right, I've got a live stream going. If you guys want to follow live stream or if you want to follow live, either way works. What we're going to do today is a brief lecture, or really kind of a coding demo more than a lecture, on filtering and sorting in Express, in your Express routes. And so I'm going to continue to work on the Lawn Connect Mern, just a demo app, and I will paste the stream in the Discord channel. You can follow along there, follow along live. Either way, if you want to clone the repo, you can do so. I imagine you guys have already done so. Last commit was a week ago, so we're going to work on this a little bit more. This is my local, and just to do a pull, so you guys can see I'm kind of starting with up to date on my local repo. And here is the folder that I can open up in VS Code. Drag that over here. And we can get started now. Where we left off was data validation in Express, and we learned about a dependency called Joi, J-O-I. You've heard of Zod. Just throwing this out here. There's another dependency in the TypeScript world. So I know some of you have been exploring and playing with TypeScript, and so this is just the TypeScript equivalent of Joi. It's called Zod, pretty popular. Just throwing that out there. And what we had was a bunch of users on this Lawn Connect, but taking a look at my screen, you're going to notice that I've got a users collection, capital U, plural, versus a singular user session. And now I've got like these collections here called the user collection, the session, and account. Where we're headed is authentication, and there is a dependency that I've been messing with, and I've deleted all my users that I manually created, because where we're headed is, using this dependency. And so for the sake of this, let me boot this up and I can create some users. npm run dev, and this is on localhost, of course listening on 8080. And what we're going to do, what this lecture is all about, or this code along, is like, hey, if you've got 100 products, imagine your website has 100 products. Of course, users can't view them all at once, and so there's very common controls. Go to Amazon.com for being able to search by a product, search by a keyword. And that's what Amazon is, right? You search, and then you get some subset of products, and then you could apply additional filters. Like, I want products greater than $10 and less than $100, and I want products with a 5-star rating. And that's very common across software. And then once you have results, not only being able to filter products, but then once you have a list of products, well, what about sorting them? I want to sort by the customer name or sort by the price, right? I want to see the least expensive to the most expensive. And so that's what we're setting up here, but we're setting it up on the back end because we haven't really hit the front end very hard yet, right? So we're just enabling our Express routes to have this filtering and sorting ability, because right now we don't have that. If we get all of our products, it's getting all products, not some subset of that. And so if I kind of hop into here and I go to localhost, I might have deleted my regular users folder because I was refactoring this. But here, let's just go ahead and add a user. Let's post /API/users. And if I post to API users, let's look at the route. Here's our post. It's got a register schema. The register schema says what? Register schema says we have an email, a password, confirm, a role that's required of either customer or provider. Profile is optional, and a created at. Now, created at will be inserted on the express route. If I kind of go back to this, here's the created at JavaScript date. So going back in, we need an email, a password, confirm password. So I'm going to go into body, raw JSON, and send in if I can do this kind of quickly. I don't think my password had any length requirements, so I'll make it a little bit shorter. Confirm. Confirm password. One, two, three, four, five, six looks confirmed. Role. Profile is optional and the rest is optional. So let's see if I can post this data. If I get a response. Created at is required. Now, created at will be added for me, so I don't need that to be required. So let me just change the schema. Let me reboot. Try again. I just took you off register schema. Little troubleshooting to start the day never hurts. I took off created at on my schema. Validate register schema. Register schema is what I modified. Maybe I mark it as optional. Sometimes, and this is good. I think I got this. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. Watch this. If I close this down, Control C. So my node server, my node service, you might call it, is not running. I go to Task Manager. Everyone knows how to get to Task Manager, right? My hotkey is Control Shift Escape. And if I search for node, N-O-D-E, still have a service running on Windows. And so very clearly, this service was not properly rebooting in NodeMon. So what's happening here is every once in a while, I have to manually close these services because it wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. Then you manually close this, and then you can start it back up. And then typically it starts behaving. See it? So that's a good one. I clearly, this is kind of a newer thing. Is for me, I'm not super fast in troubleshooting it, but I got there. I got there. Created at 10:08, so created today. Okay. Didn't mean to. So then I'll say add new register user. Okay. So this is on localhost, users, register user. Okay. Now, for this demo, I don't know, I need some users. I need more than one. And preferably I could get the created date to be different. I'll address that here in a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So here, I'm just going to register some different users. Evan Gudmested 2. How creative am I? What's the problem with this strategy? Well, if I search for Evan, and they're all going to come back. So that's a problem. So let's do a Charles Corrigan at Rankin.edu. Let's just give me a few different instructors here. Charles Corrigan 2. Mr. Gegelman. Okay, so now if I hit my get all users, this is HTTP. Okay, we could see all the way down to Mr. Gegelman, and looking here, we get 200. Okay, we get some number of documents back, 202.96 kilobytes. Sometimes I've been able to see the number of elements. Do you guys see that in here? Where you could see the number of documents it returns. This is interesting. Visualize it as a table. Oh, that's interesting. Something to consider. Okay. Nonetheless, we can at least tell how many documents are coming back by the file size, 2.96. And we can obviously scroll and count them if we wanted to. All right. First things first, right? I'm just thinking of like an Amazon search interface. You're going to search by a product by its name. You're going to type in a text search, right? So the first control that I'm envisioning on a website is a text box. And the text box says search for product, or search for user, or search for whatever you're searching for, whatever the thing is. So how do you enable that here? Well, in Mongo, there is a $text operator that we're going to look into. So $text in Mongo, MongoDB. This is the proper way to search for a string of text against a MongoDB. It's optimized. I know in a lot of the labs that you guys did, you guys gave me regular expressions, right? I don't know if you want to raise your hand if you did a regular expression, but some of you like, hey, I did a text query with a regular expression, not as efficient as this operator. And so, there's a little bit of legwork that you have to do in order to use the $text filter, and then I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so the first things first, we have to set up what's called a text index on the collection that you're searching. So I'm searching my users. We could search products or anything of that nature. I'm going to open MongoDB shell. And let me just search text index. Remember what an index is. An index, just like an index in a book, allows you to look up information fast. So this is called the text index, where you can do it on individual fields. Like if I'm only searching a product by its name, the name field, you could set up a text index on the name field. However, a lot of times, like you might search by the name field or the description. Search by name or description. You can search all the fields if you wanted to. So I'm going to go to create a text index. So here they're showing an example of a blog. Here's many blogs. And here we could create an index called text on the content. That would just be on that individual attribute, which we could do. A lot of times you set up what's called a wildcard index. So I'm going to paste this right here. I'm going to copy this URL, paste it in the chat for your future reference on how to create a text index. Again, this is step one. Okay, and creating it on an individual field. Now in my case, I'm probably searching my users by their email. So I can create a text index on the email, and sure, let's do that. Let's create a text index on the email. Here's my Mongo shell. Show DBs. Use LON Connect. Okay, so now I'm at least in the right database. DB dot collection name create index. Here we go. DB collection name is users. Create index. Parentheses object. The name of the field is email. Going back to users, the name of the field is email. So inside the double quotes, email. The type is, in quotes, a text index. And the index has been created. The response that means it worked is what I have highlighted right there, email text. Now that enables me to do a DB users find object $text query $search quotes Corrigan. And how matching does it have to be? That was not the full email, so it did not do a partial match. But if I do Charles Corrigan at rankin.edu, now normally back here, delete. Oop. Okay, also did not work. Email. Search. Nope, got a typo. So usually, I was trying something new here, which was a index that did a individual field. Text, search, Charles Corrigan. Let's go back to the docs. One more try. Okay, so if I refresh my indexes, let's make sure the email is there. It is a text index, and it says it is a ready-to-go index. You know, I may have to reopen my terminal, so let's just try that. $ text, object, $ search. So I think what's going on here is it's picking up the rankin.edu, and as odd as it is, when you create the index, there's different settings that you can apply that allow partial matches versus not. Let me just put in rankin.edu and see what comes back. Okay. Okay, I was trying something new. I'm going to delete this index. Email text. Tried it on the individual column. That didn't seem to work so well. So let's do the wildcard index. That's what I always did in the past that did seem to work. DB collection create index wildcard. So there's your command. Let's go with what's worked with in the past. Shame on me for trying something new. I'm sure I could dig 5 more minutes and figure out what was going on. Maybe I had a typo in my create index method. Okay, so index created. $ text. Hey, I tried something fancy and it didn't work. So now I did the wildcard index, and here's the query that returned eagudmested at rankin.edu. there's a query for my second user. So okay, search. Now we got Charles Corrigan at Rankin.edu. Now that confirm password is clearly not something that you want in there. All the users with the password 123456, they all have that password. So you can see we can hit different attributes with this. Role of customer. I must have had a typo in my prior index, not something to stress about. Just showing you, okay, step 1, create the index. That allows you to run this $ text query that's inside of a find. Okay. That would be step 1. Step 2 would be enabling search by keywords in Express. You guys remember when we were learning RESTful APIs, right? RESTful APIs. Whole idea, HTTP, status codes, conventions. What are the conventions for the URLs? And JSON, right? It is a standard. RESTful APIs is an architectural standard for designing APIs in a way that applications can understand. When we were studying RESTful APIs, these controls that we're talking about, these search by keywords and filtering and sorting, the recommendations, the RESTful API best practices are to include inputs in the query string. Notice here I put the question mark in the URL, and notice my keywords go inside of the query string. So you can mess with this. It's basically what are called parameter variables. That's why it's params. And when you mess with this interface, notice what it's building. You guys have all seen, you've all seen this part of the URL, right? You got the part of the URL that makes sense up front, and then you got a question mark, and then it just all goes to gibberish after that, right? That's called the query string, and that's passing data in clear text as part of the URL, okay? When it comes to sorting and filtering and searching, the best practice is to put all of that information in the clear string URL in the query string. Okay, so we're going to pass keywords via the params variables, and then you receive them over here inside of the request.params. So if I want to extract keywords out of rec query, so if I pass a keywords variable over here, keywords, and I pass it in the query string, I receive it in the express route with destructuring, because this would be rec.query.keywords, destructuring here on line 13 the keywords, and what I'm just going to do is say the keywords are the keywords. So just to demo that I can send keywords ea.gutmanstead.rankin.edu. So I send that across to my get all users, and then here this is received as keywords : well, really keywords in this case is just ea.gutmanstead.rankin.edu. So if I send that again one more time, okay, we can see that this variable has a value in it that was received from Postman. Now again, in React, we have to learn how to build a query string in React and send the data that way. So what I will do is I'm going to refactor my get users, and my get users inside of my database is going to accept, instead of getting all the users, it's going to accept an object called filter. And so over here, I'll make an empty filter object. Is an empty object. And I'm going to say if keywords, then set the filter object dot $text equal to search by the keywords. This looks really familiar, right? Because we literally just did this in Mongo. This is going to go inside of our find, right? So find $text equal to search keywords. I'm going to send that filter in to get users. And then over here, on here, filter. Oh, no object needed. It's already an object. So we accept the keywords from the query string. We put them into an object, a filter object, with a $text property, search keywords, send that object over, send this. Oh, I'm not debugging users keywords anymore. I can take that out. Send that into our get users. And let's kind of reboot here. I think I've already done that. Interesting how my NodeMon's not rebooting my server. Why aren't you listening to me? Okay. So debug DB. Let's spit out my filter. Let's send that over. Filter $text search EA Gudmestad at rankin.edu.
Should the $sign search be in quotes and $text in quotes?
Maybe that's what I got going on. I got some extra quotes. Let's thank you for keeping an eye on that. So let's debug here because it's dollars. Now, if I get rid of my stringify on filter, it's just going to say object. Let me see. Let me ask the old AI assistant, see if it jumps out at me. Yeah, I already created my text index. Don't want a different search approach. You are no help to me. It's not helping right now. Let's try. Just gonna put in a. Going to put in a static string just to try. thinking it's just the JSON stringify that's putting those extra quotes on there anyways. Because JSON has quotes around the properties. See, when I search EA Gudmested, there we go. And I've done this before. This is when I throw rankin.edu. Well, of course, rankin.edu matches everything. It's doing a partial EA Gudmested at rankin.edu. It's still finding rankin.edu. This is the problem that I was saying before. If I search for a very specific keyword, EA Gudmested, it's not including that rankin.edu. I'm getting the results back. It's been working the way I coded it. It's just the way the wildcard works is it picks up the at rankin.edu and it returns all results with a at rankin.edu. So it's got to beg the question back to this wildcard index. Exact matches. I've gotten stumped by that before, and it probably took me just as long this time to troubleshoot it.
Could it be a thing with the at flag? Could it just be the special character creating a gap in the keyword, making it so it uses it as the rankin.edu is a separate thing to search for?
Putting a gap in it? I'm sorry. One more time?
So it's looking for the stuff after the at sign as a separate thing to search for?
Yeah, we'd have to modify. I think what you're saying is we'd have to modify the index to ignore what comes after the at rankin.edu.
Yeah, that would be possible.
Yeah, so I think modifying the index, I mean, if you didn't want this result, number one, understanding why we're getting the results makes sense. Number two, is this not the result that you want? Probably not, in which case you go back to modifying the index with its options. When you create these indexes and they have the options, but just kind of going back to here, if I clear the screen and I do this query here, see, EA Gudmested is still returning Charles Corrigan. So it works this way in Mongo. And again, you would have to modify the index to do an exact match. And so, so hold on, let's do this. Let's see if we can leverage AI to be something useful, because last time it didn't give me something useful. So let's see if we can ask it one more question. Okay, new here at workspace. I created a MongoDB collection index with DB users create index, and I'm sure I could hit the docs and find this answer, and that's where I'm going to end up if this AI does not give me what I need. It is designed for full text search scenarios rather than exact matching. Can I modify the index for more of an exact match? That's kind of what I was going down the route of, but so creating the specific index field, no, don't make any changes. No, 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 no. Does this do this for you guys where it's like completely replacing your code?
Yes.
Yeah. No, stop, 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 stop.
Say keep code request change request.
Say what?
I just say keep my code and I say keep my code.
Okay, so I'm going to say undo. Is that what you say? I'm not keeping it.
Yeah, if you select undo,
Okay. 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 So we got the keyword searching working, albeit it just works out of the box the way it works. I suppose, again, even though I was kind of bashing on regular expressions not being as efficient, if you wanted an exact match, that is another avenue to explore. We can continue on. Why don't you guys just take 10 minutes? I'm gonna gather myself together after that debacle. Okay, why don't you guys take 10 minutes? Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and register some providers because the next thing to do is to filter by role. And so we have a role attribute. So you're either a customer or a provider. So there's one provider, there's a second provider. And so what I want to do is I want to update my filter to also be able to filter by role. So I can send a role in. If I get all users, I can send in a role of provider. And if there's a role, then we update our filter with that role. We're still sending in the filter object. And so now that should be a pretty simple way of just filtering out by a string since our role is either provider or customer. And so now we could see one or the other. So that's a little bit more straightforward of filtering out by a string. The next one is we have a created at date. And so we can allow the users to say, hey, give me the users that were created in the database with a max age or a min age. And this is kind of counterintuitive. So the maximum age, like if I say the maximum age is like 10 days ago, so you have to be newer than the maximum age. So 10 days ago, 9 days ago, newer than the maximum age, and older than the minimum age. And so if the minimum age is 1 day ago, you have to be older than 1 day ago. So you could pass in numbers and say again like 10 for and 5. So this would be records that were at least 10 days ago, but more than 5 days ago. Does that make sense? Returning those results. And so we can bring in a min age and a max age. And there's a little bit of math involved with these. And so here, I'm going to bring in, if you have a minimum age or you have a maximum age, we spin up a new JavaScript date and we zero out the hours, the minutes, the seconds, and the milliseconds. So we're left with a date only, like today's date only. Then I'm going to apply a date filter. And here's the math involved with dates. I say if there's a maximum age, we want our date filter to be greater than or equal to today's date, today.getTime. So today's date minus the number that was passed in. So in this case, I'm saying 10. 10 days ago, this is basically 10 days ago in milliseconds. So if I say 10 times 24, that's 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, and 1,000 milliseconds per second. So subtract from right now, 10 days ago in milliseconds, and be greater than that. So it says records must be newer than 10 days ago. And so that's the little bit of math that's involved to get a date filter greater than 10 days. Of course, it's less than or equal to when we're looking at the minimum age. And then we can update our filter with our created on attribute, just like we did here, filter.role. Now we just update our filter with the created on attribute equal to the date filter object that we just built. And don't forget your curly brace. That should close the if statement. Howdy. Oh, and I... Let me see where my syntax went off. Line 41, it's not happy with. Small things are getting me today.
At least you're going on vacation soon.
Okay. So if I take out the if, oh, I literally didn't do anything and it booted up. So let's send the max age and min age over. Okay, good, good, good. So if I say max age of 10, get the filter created on. It's created at. I've got created at versus created on in my database. So let's fix that. Created at. Created at Filter created at, reboot that. Couple more things I want to add, and I think what I need to do is have a few more dates that people have actually been created on. Few more things to add, and then I might have a little bit more cleanup to do. So I did keywords, I did role, I did max age and min age. The next two things that you often see is page and limits. And so if you've got paging results, you might have 10 items per page. And so you might have 10 pages. And so let's bring in page and limit is the next one. So a page and a limit. So these are going to enable paging controls. And let's take that out. So here we're creating a variable, line 17, page number is equal to our page parsed to an int, so it's no longer a string, or 1. So we're kind of assuming the default of 1 unless it's passed in. The limit is set to whatever is passed in is the limit, or 0. 0 meaning no limit. The skip would be skip the first number of records. Like if you're on page 3 and it's 5 per page, you would skip the first 10, right? You skip the first 10 records. So this is a ternary. Is the limit greater than 0? If it is, the skip is equal to the page number minus 1. So the user will type in, page number, or the front end would send in page number 2. But that would be like clicking on page number 1, because the first 5 results would be on the 0 page number. Everything's 0 based. So because it's 0 based, you subtract 1. So if the limit is greater, so this would be, again, if they click page number 2, right? So it's 2 minus 1 is 1, times the limit, which is how many items per page. And that would be how many items to skip. 1 minus, 1 times 5 is 5. So skip 5 in that case. So that would be the number of records to skip. That would enable the right records on the right page. And so now we get to update our get users with a limit num and a skip. So these are the two variables here, limit number and skip, that we created. And over here on get users, we We have a limit and a skip now. We assume the limit of 0 and the skip of 0. So limit of 0, skip of 0. And we get to refactor this. I'm going to say let query equals, and I'm going to take off the to array. If there's a skip, we update the query with the skip. If there's a limit, we update it with the limit. So if there's a skip, update the query with the skip. If there's a limit, update the query with the limit, and then we return the query to array. Okay, so back to here. I think that's ready to go, and we can kind of demonstrate. We're going to send in a page and a limit. So if we kind of come back here, we get all the records. Let's just send in a limit of 2. So now we're getting, this is essentially limited EA Gudmestad number 2 and then number 3. But if I then send in a page and I say page 2, I should get different users. EA Gudmestad 4, EA Gudmestad 5, EA Gudmestad 6. Okay, so thumbs up there. We got our limit and our page working. We've got keywords working. We've got role working. I've got a couple kinks to work out with my age, and I think it might be with how the dates are actually being saved in the database. I will admit there's a couple of kinks to work out there. There's one last thing, and then this lecture is over. Okay, the one last thing is sorting the data. Okay, so let's kind of send it back out here. If we want to be able to sort our records, there's one more thing to send in to our route. Which is a sort by. So let's bring in comma sort by and sort by here. Okay, now maybe if I kind of scroll down after the age stuff. Okay, so I'm going to have some sort options. So I'm going to sort by, I don't have a first name currently. Let's just sort by role. So it's kind of a default sort would be sorting by role. And make a variable. So if there's a sort by, if sort by is truthy, we will append that to our current object, otherwise roll :1. So if sort by is truthy, we append that sort by there, otherwise we sort by the role. And we have this sort variable now that we can send in to our get users. So if I go back to get users, let's say sort. And thankfully, there is a .sort method available as part of that MongoDB driver. So filtering and sorting. So let's kind of back out here. No sort by, getting all users. And our customers should come in all before the providers. Just to test it, if I were to change that sort to a -1 to change the default there, and I get, now we get our providers before the customers, right? So if you sort by 1, it's alphanumeric ascending versus descending order, and you can kind of see our default sort is sorting by role, and we're getting providers or customers first, depending on 1 or -1. So that's cool. But let's change the sort. And now this is appending, right? So this is role first. But let's also do, let's just sort by email. Sort options, sub sort by. Let me reboot. Debug users. Sort is okay. So let me see what that sort looks like. Okay. So it did not do this. Sort options, sub sort by. Sort by comes in. Debug users. Sort by is sort by. Let me make sure that sort, oh, there, that's why. Sort by. It's expecting sort by. Sort by. Okay, sort by is email. Okay, so this is good. So sort by is email. That looks good.
So it can work by that even if like you don't have like email specified in a sort options there?
Yeah, well, because I was line 50. What I was trying to do is update this to say sort by dot email :1. The line 50 is wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, line 50 is wrong because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get the sort by dot email equal to 1. But here you could see sort is still roll -1 on line 52. So line 50 did not update my my sort options. So like to kind of just let's just, because that's a dynamic property, you could send different values in. You kind of need to do that, :1. I got to think of the syntax here. I don't think this is going to work. Sort is undefined. I don't want necessarily if sort by equals email. Sort by options. You know, guys, and it's funny because I've taught this many times before, and the reason why I'm having these issues and having to troubleshoot them live on the go is because I tried to give you an updated syntax for doing this, and even though I've had it working before this newer syntax, I haven't had it working in this solution, and so it's a little different. So there's two things going on here at once, which is I'm trying a newer syntax than an older, more familiar syntax for doing the same job. And number two, it's just a new project. So it's unfortunate because I've done this like 10 times by now. But I'm trying something new. I'm trying something that in the end should be better for you guys. So thank you for your patience. We're almost done. We're almost through this. So let me, it's an object. We're creating a property called sort options. Not at all. Come on, man. Let's see. Name is one. Okay. Email, role, created at. Give it some runtime errors. If I give it some runtime. So, okay. Maybe that would just update it. That's what it is. Okay. That's what it is. This is just doing an update operation instead of creating a new. So if we set our sort options, this makes sense. To do email to one. It's kind of a default. Email is one. created as, so here's kind of a default, and then we update Okay, so no sort. If we do not send a sort in, sort by is undefined, and sort remains empty. So the default is no sort, no sorting if sort by is not provided or invalid. So if we wanted to do kind of like what we were doing before, or we said email -1. No, we said roll. Okay, I'll explain this in just a second. I think we're almost there. Okay, so we got the roll at -1. That's our default sort. So these sort options are updated with the sort by that's passed in, which in our case is email. If it can, it'll update our sort options, which we can update. We can sort by email created at or roll. These are the valid options that we could send in. So if we sort by our email, if that's passed in, it'll do that. Otherwise, it assumes the default of roll -1. So with no sort by, we're getting back to the provider being sent in first and then customer. And if we send in email, now we get the A's before the C's, before the D's, before the E's. So we can sort by email. Created at, it's all essentially the same date, so that's not going to do much for us at the moment. And last but not least, we can do sort by roll. And that's now ascending instead of descending order, customers before providers. Okay, so a little bit of troubleshooting there, but we got the sort going. So, took me longer than usual. Apologies for that. However, at the end of this, we have it working with a bug. We have a bug, which is min age and max age. I'll work my way through that and I'll push the updates to the repo. Okay, so filtering by keywords, filtering by roles, paging, limits, and sorting, and then almost filtering records by their age. And that's that end of